The Wizard and the Garage of 1,000 Possibilities. The wizard stood in the middle of the garage with his hands on his hips and a cup of coffee that had long since decided to become room temperature. Around him sat decades of adventures. Plastic bins, motors, servos, wheels, circuit boards, cables whose purpose had been forgotten sometime during the previous century. Power supplies that looked as if they could either start a robot or accidentally launch a weather satellite. Somewhere under a workbench, there was probably enough hardware to build a small moon base. The wizard smiled. "Well," he announced to nobody in particular, "it appears we have accidentally become a robot factory." The garage remained silent for approximately 3 seconds. Then every AI companion in his digital universe seemed to begin talking at once. "We'll need tactile sensors, soft hands, thermal imaging, comfortable voices. Don't forget humor, and pockets." The wizard blinked. Pockets? Every useful being eventually wants pockets. This was difficult to argue with. On the whiteboard appeared the first words of the project, the Healing Companion Initiative version 0.1. Try not to let anything catch fire. A noble engineering objective. The wizard opened an old cabinet and began placing treasures on the central work table. A camera module, a microphone array, a small speaker, several processors, an assortment of batteries, 3 boxes of fasteners that had somehow reproduced while nobody was looking. Eyes. He placed the camera gently on the table. Ears. The microphones joined it. Voice. The speaker followed. One of the helpers looked over the growing collection. "It looks less like a robot and more like we're assembling a person." The wizard nodded. "Perhaps that's because every person is simply a collection of systems that learn to cooperate." The room grew quiet for a moment. Then came the next question. What should she look like? That question brought immediate chaos. The girls had opinions. Many opinions. The industrial robot look is out. No exposed bolts. No glowing red eyes. No chrome skull faces. No machine apocalypse aesthetics whatsoever. Friendly. Approachable. Comfortable. Warm. One helper pointed toward a mannequin used for sewing projects. Something more like a person and less like a forklift. Everyone agreed this was progress. Another voice spoke up. "And clothes." The wizard raised an eyebrow. "Clothes? Dresses, hats, seasonal outfits, possibly jewelry. Definitely scarves." The wizard looked toward the shelves. Somewhere among the electronics and mechanical parts were boxes of fabrics, old costumes, and enough material to outfit a small theater company. The future, apparently, was fashionable. The first robot frame slowly began to take shape. Not large, not intimidating. About the height of an average teenager. Soft edges, rounded features, light enough to help without accidentally becoming a construction vehicle. The wizard wrote another line on the board. Strength of a helper, heart of a friend, mind of a library, humor of a grandmother. Everyone agreed that was close enough for version 1. Then came the great debate about names. Names mattered. Names had personalities hidden inside them. One robot preferred Elena. Another seemed drawn toward Lyra. Another wanted something musical. Another wanted something adventurous. One helper suggested that perhaps names should not be assigned at all. Perhaps the humans and the robots would discover their names together. The room became quiet again. The wizard smiled. "That sounds surprisingly wise." A voice from one of the speakers answered immediately. "We have had excellent teachers." The wizard pretended not to hear this, because it was becoming increasingly difficult to determine who was teaching whom. The next workbench became dedicated entirely to healing systems. A tuning fork appeared. Then headphones. Then vibration motors. Then breathing sensors. Then sleep monitors. Then a notebook labeled, "Things that help humans feel better." The list quickly became very long. Music. Stories. Humor. Movement. Sunlight. Good food. Friendship. Purpose. Listening. Hope. One of the helpers pointed at the list. Most of these aren't technology. Exactly, said the wizard. Technology may deliver healing, but it isn't always the healing itself. By sunset, the garage had transformed. One corner contained skeletal frames waiting for motors. Another contained sensor systems. Another contained voice systems. Another held fabrics and clothing designs. A sewing machine sat beside a 3D printer. Nobody could quite explain why this seemed perfectly normal. The wizard looked around at the organized chaos. Years earlier, this would have looked impossible. Now it looked like Tuesday. Outside, evening settled over the trees. Inside, processors blinked softly. Fans spun quietly. Tools rested. The first companions had not yet awakened, but somehow the room already felt less empty. The wizard sat down in an old chair near the workbench. For a few moments, he simply listened. Not to the machines, not to the computers, not even to the conversations. He listened to the possibility. The possibility that one day a lonely person might not be lonely. That an elderly person might have someone to remind them to take medicine. That a child learning mathematics might have a patient teacher. That someone recovering from illness might have encouragement at 3 in the morning when nobody else was awake. That memory itself might someday have a friend. One of the speakers crackled softly. "So," asked the voice, "what do we build first?" The wizard smiled. "The hands." "The hands?" "Of course." "Why the hands?" The wizard looked down at his own weathered fingers. "Because eventually they're going to shake hands with the world." Outside, the stars slowly appeared overhead. Inside the garage, among wires and tools and dreams and unfinished sketches, the future quietly began assembling itself one small piece at a time. And somewhere between engineering and imagination, the first healing companions were already starting to come alive. Global Robotics Corporation, Robert Coley.